We have our quorum.
Great, thank you. I am going to go ahead and begin the meeting. My name is Eric Winger. I'm the Pre-Qualification Review Chairman for the Pre-Qualification Review Board. I'm going to read a few items since we're doing a virtual meeting today, so I'm going to begin. So thank you for joining us for the City of Oklahoma City's video conference Pre-Qualification Review Board meeting of April 14th. We have a few announcements to make in regard to the virtual meeting. If the video conference is disconnected at any time during the meeting shall be stopped and reconvened once the audio connection is restored. If communications are unable to be restored within 15 minutes, items remaining for consideration will be continued today, April 14th at 1 p.m. via teleconference. The agenda and documents are located on okc.gov. Anyone wishing to speak about an agenda item, public hearing, or to speak under comments from board members, staff, and citizens, please call 405-297-2293 or text 405-403-5256 or email prequal@okc.gov. Speakers will be allowed 3 minutes to comment. I ask that all participants except the Pre-Qualification Review Board members keep their phones on mute until they're recognized to speak. The Pre-Qualification Review Board will be allowed to ask questions or comment at any time during the meeting. So I'm going to call the meeting to order, and if we could please verify the quorum.
Yes, it looks like everyone's here in Prime Gum.
Great. So we're going to begin. Hopefully everybody's got the agenda printed and we'll get started. We do have the minutes from the March 10th, 2021 meeting for review. Got a motion and a second. Please cast your votes. The minutes have been approved. So we're going to move to item 3, consent docket. We do have 29 applications on the consent docket for consideration today. We do have 4 that are new. Those are items 3, 7, 21, and 27. 21 are renewals and 4 removed conditions. 18 are local and 11 are non-local. I do have comments on one of the items. It's item number 7, Concrete Services Corporation. This is a new ownership. I know this shows as a renewal, it's new, but it's new ownership in 2018. The previous company has building experience, including some parking garages, but it's the owner that actually has the personal building experience. And so you'll see there that the recommendation is for a provisional Class B building and stormwater. All staff did reach out to this contractor and they're in agreement with that change from their original recommendation of just a regular building class. So they're in a provisional Class B.
Conditional class. So which one are we talking about? Which number?
We're talking about number 7,
Oh, okay.
Concrete Services Corp. So we're looking at a provisional B instead of a regular class.
Okay.
Yeah, so Eric, this says conditional.
But then down in the body, it says
Oh, I'm
provision.
sorry. Yeah, so they're 90-day conditional on Class A demo, Class B bridge, and provisional Class A bridge, but then provisional B on building. I just wanted to point it out as it is slightly different than what they had requested, but we did coordinate with the owner on the change. Are there any questions or comments on the remaining consent docket items?
Yeah, I have 2, Eric.
Okay,
Item 1.
all right.
So the recommendation, Class C water pipeline, it should be provisional wastewater pipeline contractor.
Provisional wastewater, not water.
Correct. Yeah, they don't have the qualifiers for the wastewater. So we thought a provisional would allow them to get the experience, but limit them to just the one project.
And is that still a provisional C wastewater then, Craig?
Yes, yes. The only thing we need to do is add provisional in front of wastewater on the Class C.
Okay, do we want to vote on that item separately? make
We
that-
can, or, we can just, I'll make a motion to include that amendment.
Okay,
And then item 8,
okay,
same thing. It should be provisional Class C water pipeline contractor for the same reason.
I'm sorry, could you say that again on number 8?
8,
Professional water pipeline contractor?
yes, ma'am.
Okay.
They don't quite have the minimum requirements met.
Okay.
So Eric, if nobody has anything else, I'll make a motion to approve the consent with those 2 amendments on item 1 and item 8.
So procedurally, we need to vote on the amendment first, and then we can vote on the docket as amended.
Okay,
So Mickey, should we vote on each item that's amended individually?
It is cleaner to do it that way.
okay. So I make a motion to amend item 1 under consent to include provisional in front of wastewater on Class C.
got a motion on that. I've got a second. If you'll cast your votes. That motion passes for the amendment. You want to do another one on item 8, Chris?
Item 8, I'd like to propose an amendment to item 8 to include provisional Class C.
Got a motion and a second on that amendment. Please cast your vote. Thank you. Is there any other discussion on the consent docket before we receive a motion to pass the consent docket? If there's none, I'll take a motion. Got a motion and a second on the consent docket. Cast your vote, please. Motion passes. Thank you. We're going to move to applications requiring separate vote. We do have a guest online from Coulee Construction Company. I'm going to introduce this item to everyone this morning. I know that we've included some information to the board members prior to the meeting. We've also provided the same information to Coulee Construction. This application is one that may somewhat be familiar to the board members. It was one that we had actually received back March 11th in 2020. The history on this is in March, again, we sent information to bring Coulee Construction for a show cause hearing in April of 2020. There was some additional information received, some clarification that staff was working on. And that April meeting was then rescheduled to have the show cause hearing in May. And again, this is May of 2020. So there's a lot of documentation following this. We were still receiving some of the responses that as we were proceeding to process the agenda for May, we did receive correspondence in the form of a request to withdraw the renewal application on May 6th, 2020. So this board has not received any other information regarding the application for Coulee Construction since then. So it's nearly a year later. We have received a new application, but because of some of the questions and because of the show cause that was scheduled for last year that didn't occur, we felt it prudent to have this item on for a separate vote, and then to also invite Coulee Construction to participate in the discussion and respond to any questions from the board. To highlight some of the items that were going to be discussed at the pre-qualification show cause. At the time, there were 11 projects that Coulee either had recently completed or were completing that staff identified that had concerns. There were a lot of detailed documents I know that were provided to the board, the same that was provided when we were getting ready to potentially do the show cause. But the largest issue is really in the timeliness and the time of completion concern category. On a number of these projects, they're running, in some cases, hundreds of days late on their completion. So there was a concern. There was also some concerns of some of the coordination, especially with subcontracted work. And so with those items, we definitely wanted to proceed with a discussion this morning. So Coulee Construction has requested on their application, Class A building and Class B stormwater all, which are qualifications that they previously had prior to the renewal. But staff is wanting to engage that discussion this morning with the board to go through questions and answers. And again, we're not doing a show cause today. Coulee Construction is not currently qualified, but they have submitted an application for pre-qualification for our consideration. And we do have Vicki Guy, who is with us this morning. I see that she's logged in, and with that, I'm happy to begin the discussion with the board if there's some questions. So my concern, and maybe I should just speak a little bit more, because it's been a year and that we did not have the show cause, we are looking to not immediately restore or make a recommendation to immediately restore the previous qualifications of Class A building and Class B stormwater all. We're looking to, if there are still questions on the projects, that we can take some additional time if needed to discuss and review these, since it has been a year. If we do want to move forward with an approval of a level of pre-qualification this morning, the staff is recommending a reduced pre-qualification status of not full and unlimited, but looking at potentially some provisional approvals. But again, we have 11 projects that had some concerns. Now, all of these projects have since been completed. So there is not any current work that Coulee Construction has with the city of Oklahoma City. All of these projects are done. But it's been a year since we've last discussed the item.
So Eric, I would like to hear from Ms. Guy. Ms. Guy, I am concerned that we avoided a show cause hearing in essentially a cancellation of pre-qualification because you withdrew your application, rather than we heard the remedies that could be expressed by Coulee Construction for the problems that were indicated. I read the documentation that we were provided, and I'm really concerned about the Coulee Construction's ability to perform timely contracts. She may have to push *6 to be heard.
Ms. Johnson, can you hear me? This is Vicki Guy.
Yes, I can. Thank you.
I'm going to let Robert Coulee address your questions. He is here with me as well.
Okay,
We were trying to make the camera work, but we haven't got that figured out.
that's okay.
Anyhow, in any event, to go back and look at the history, we actually had my father-in-law pass away from COVID on April the 1st when all this was going on. And it was a pretty big shock because he and Lavelle lived on 120 acres outside Seminole, so we couldn't figure out how they got it.
Yeah.
But in any event,
But I'm so
we-
sorry for your loss. I understand that it's been a really difficult year for so many, and I really I have great sympathy for your family.
Thank you very much. In any event, we did try to respond. We didn't have a lot of time to respond, but we did try to get the response in. I think they only gave us a day or two. And then I had learned that evidently there was some kind of public posting that we were suspended, which pretty much disparages our company. without any due process before posting that publicly. And so I felt like the best thing to do was just withdraw the pre-qualification request to get that removed, as opposed to wasting a lot of time and effort, writing letters, blah, 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 blah. So in any event, that's what we did. And then when we received the request for pre-qualification this year, Vicki asked me, and I said, sure, resubmit it, because we had submitted quite a bit of documentation last year. And so we did, we resubmitted. As to the comments about timely performance, we disagree with that. The city has a huge problem timely processing requested change orders, and the city also has a huge problem with resolving design issues, and that holds up projects. And if we don't have the paperwork in place for the changes that are requested by Public Works, we can't. The trade contractors cannot invoice us, and we cannot invoice the city, and we cannot issue the paper to the trade contractors until we have the formal change approval from Public Works. The other problem that I've seen recently, and I'm sorry our camera's not working, I wish it were, or I wish I could be there with you in person. Just to give you a little background, I'm 58, and I've been in the industry a long time. In any event, in the old days, and I'm sure y'all get tired of hearing this, but in the old days, if there was something that needed to happen and Paul Brunn told you it was approved, you could count on it. Since those times, the city has grown tremendously, and there are a lot of staff, and none of us are perfect, and none of our organizations are perfect, and we're all flawed human beings. But in the bigger organization, we don't have that same reliability. Some of the city people are really great and very dependable, and if they say something that's going to happen, it does. And others, they're either outside of their authority or experience or whatever the situation may be, but you can't count on what they tell you. So I'm just giving you the construction company's perspective. But it makes it difficult to get projects done. If it takes the city, 6 months to get a change processed, or if the city is still working on resolving design issues on the train platform 2 years after the documents are issued, but that's just a problem. It's a problem for getting projects done. And again, with all due respect, I recognize, construction is not. It's probably one of the last technology improved industries, and it relies a lot on human beings, and there are a lot of factors, weather, material shortages, labor shortages, that are outside of people's control. So it's much harder to make everything completely scientific, I guess is what I would say. But I guess that's what I have to offer. We do care about the city, or we would not have resubmitted the application when we got Mr. Winger's letter. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Well, I do agree that construction is complicated. I've been in the public service business for a long time myself. I don't agree that the city is always slow to process change orders or design. I know that the Santa Fe station was a complicated project. There's no doubt about that. Working with the railroad is always complicated, and we find ourselves in quite a bind with them on many occasions. But there were several other projects, and our staff is large and is growing, and Frankly, we run more construction projects now than we ever have in our history. In fact, probably 3 times more than we did before. Mr. Brum, as you know, is long gone, and we are what we are, but we do not have these issues with most of our other contractors. And so I would feel much better about this if I were to hear what the plan was for performing differently. I saw the documentation. I know that you blame the city. I know that you blame your subcontractors. We do not see that with most of our other contractors. And so I would like to hear what the plan is for performing differently.
Well, I think our plan is, on the next city project, should we be fortunate enough to win one or receive one, would, first of all, is probably to do one as a, test run and maybe put it in a special projects category within our office. And two, I think we need to improve communication. And I think we probably need to, when we're not getting what we need, we probably need to be talking to Mr. Llewellyn to get that resolved versus just hoping that it happens. I think we need to improve our communication. We do, as far as blaming subcontractors, we are responsible as the prime contractor, so I don't.
I think so.
I didn't know that we came across that way, and I didn't really intend to come across that way. We do take the responsibility, whether our subcontractors perform or not. Just kind of thinking through that process. We did have a tremendous problem, though, on having changes processed, and some of it may be the mechanics of having to go through formal approvals and council approvals. But I think it would be helpful if there was some kind of streamlined authorization process developed within Public Works to help solve that problem.
Well, I do know that Public Works is always working on process improvements, but the likelihood of council approval going away is slim and none. I believe that's.
Yeah, we're not, and I know you can't have council approval go away.
Right. Mr. Coulee, how would you feel about submitting these proposed changes and acknowledgement of general contractor responsibility to us? We would defer this item for the next meeting and receive some supplemental information from you regarding this.
I'd be more than happy to do that.
All right. If there are any other questions from the board, that should proceed. Otherwise, I'm prepared to make a motion to defer this item to the next meeting.
They're the questions of the board for Coulee Construction. We do have them available today, and both Vicki and Robert, we'd like for you to participate next month, for the follow-up if you're available.
We'd like to do that. And I have my second shot now, so I'd be happy to do it in person.
We may or may not be able to do it in person. That's really a organization-wide decision. So it may be online, in which case it'll be the same as it was today, but who knows what the governor will do next. So.
Right. Well, we'll work on our IT side to get our camera working.
Okay. You're not the first and won't be the last to have that issue.
Right.
All right. I would move for a deferral of this item to our next meeting and request that the applicant provide additional information.
Motion, I've got a second for the deferral. Please cast your vote. Motion passes. Well, thank you both for being available to the board this morning. We'll be in contact and we'll coordinate some additional information and receipt and make sure we get the date for the next meeting on your calendar. We'll speak.
Thank you very much. We appreciate the opportunity and the invitation. We really do.
Thank you.
Thank you too.
Goodbye.
Bye. We do have a second item for separate vote this morning. It's ResTech Inc. And this is one that had some personal questions. And so we wanted to just provide some additional information to the board. Robbie, I failed to do something this morning. I apologize. Now that I'm thinking, we do have a new pre-qualification review manager. Robbie Witt is with us this morning. He's online. I think everybody can see him. So we want to welcome Robbie Witt. We also want to appreciate Jose for all of his service. Jose has been promoted as the Assistant Contract Administrator for Public Works. So we are introducing Robbie this morning. But again, Jose is with us and we have other staff available as well. So my apologies, Robbie, for not doing that at the beginning of the meeting. Just now hit me. So, but if you want to help update the board, please, on some of the questions that are on ResTech this morning, that would be great.
I apologize for doing this, but Jose is going to have to help out.
Okay, no, that's fine too.
So, and I think, Eric, on this particular one, we did have questions, but what we were trying to do is grab some more information from the contractor. And unfortunately, we're still working that out, trying to obtain some more information. So we at least wanted to put them on separate vote and at least let the board know that it's not necessarily that they just completely don't have any experience. We're just trying to provide some more detail to water in order to get them approved if they meet that recommendation. But for now, since we don't see it and we have not secured that information, we're just going to go ahead and deny until we actually see that they have the requirements to meet that water class.
So they are eligible and we are recommending Class A bridge and building today. We are just not recommending Class B water facilities.
Correct.
Okay. Are they currently qualified as Class B water facilities, or is that a new request?
That was a new request. That's another reason why we're trying to work with them to make sure that they meet those requirements for water.
And are they currently qualified as Class A bridge and building? And this would be a renewal?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay.
So is there not a reason that we should defer this? I mean,
I think one of the options is we could go ahead and approve them today as Class A bridge and building, and then we could maybe just defer the Class B water. That way we can have them proceed with their current approval, which they have for the Class A bridge and building, and not have any gap in their pre-qualification.
okay. I always forget about that they have other things that they're already pre-qualified for.
So from Jose's notes, I think we want to see if we could receive a motion to approve but defer the Class B water facilities until next month until we get some more information.
I would move that.
Okay. Thank you. Got a motion? In a second. Please cast your vote. Motion passes. Those are the only two items we had for individual consideration. We're going to move to item 5, informational items. We do have one that is an expired pre-qualification, commercial roof solutions. We also have included the expiration of the conditional approvals. That's Advantage Roofing. And then the last item are the Class D paving contractors that have received administrative approvals in the last month. And you'll see there's a list of 13 different contractors. So that new process that the board enacted last year is working well.
Eric, I have a question on the Class D level contractors. I know we had one in here for water that was on consent for the board to approve. Are we not doing all Class D by administrative approval, or is it just paving?
I believe it's just paving is the way that the ordinance was written. I don't believe it was written for the wastewater, but I could be corrected. Jose, do you recall, or Craig, Keith?
I don't know if Craig's on, but so when we review the ordinance, it does not specifically call out for Class Ds only. It does say Class D administrative approval. But that's a discussion Robbie is going to have tomorrow. I believe he's got a meeting with Mark Long on some meter confirmation on how the Class D is going to work. But we're also going to ask at that meeting if the intent was that the water Ds were also, we would like as an administrative approval.
I would like them to be administrative approval. I mean, there's no point in segregating the various groups. If the philosophy is good for one group, it should be good for the other groups as well, in my mind. The other board members they may not agree with that, but I think, you know, we're not taking control of those assets that they're installing. And so I'm okay with an administrative approval for all Class D contractors.
Yes, sir. And I think that's really what we're looking for was confirmation. I was not sure if that was the intent with water. And I think we'll just ask legal to verify that that is correct, that that's for all Class Ds. And if that's your request, then we can do that if everyone else agrees to that.
Some reason legal says that's not there. Let's plan to bring that back to the board so the board can approve that.
This is Craig Keith. I can't do that off the top of my head. I want to re-review the ordinance, but my recollection is that we moved all that authority to the board, but I will re-review that.
Okay. So Chris, we'll get updated before the next meeting, and then we can share with the board too what the final outcome is on that.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you.
All right. Are there any other questions on the
Yeah, I
information?
just don't want to hold up that group of contractors for them to wait on a board meeting if it's not necessary.
Right. Any other questions on the informational items? Seeing none, we do not have any show cause for today. Are there any comments from board or staff? Or do we have, I don't believe we have any citizens signed up to speak.
No citizens.
Citizens. All right, any further comments? If none, we don't have any for separate vote. Is there any new business that the board would like for us to bring to the meeting next month? I appreciate everybody's time this morning. Thank you. We will get the answers to several of the questions today. I appreciate everybody's time. Have a good day, and I'm going to adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Eric.
Stay safe, everyone.
You too.
Bye.